Good evening, everyone. We'll get started with the prayers. Do Manjushri first, and then we'll do the refuge as usual. And after that, we'll do the Heart Sutra. I pay homage to Guru, our Lord Manjushri. Your intelligence shines forth like the sun, unclouded by the true obscuration. You hold the scripture texts into your heart, symbolic of the seeing of all things as they are. Those who are caught in the prison of samsara are confused in the darkness of ignorance and are overwhelmed by their sufferings. In 60 ways with your speech you teach migratory beings to whom you are compassionate to understand. Your proclamation of Dharma is like roaring thunder which awakens being from the stupor of delusion and frees us from the iron chains of our karma. You wield the sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. Primordially pure, your princely body of the embodiment of perfection, the Bodhisattva dwelling in the 10th Bhumi. I pay homage to Manjushri who dispelled my ignorance, whose body is adorned by the 100 hearts of the Buddha. With the billions of wisdom, compassion, illuminate the darkness and close my mind. Enlighten my intelligence and wisdom so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's Buddha text. Om Mara Bhaja Nadi, 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 Om Mara Bhaja Nadi. Let's do the Heart Sutra first. To the perfection of wisdom, blessed Mother, I pay homage. Thus I heard one time, blessed Mother, was dwelling on the ridge, great vultures speak together with the great assembly sangha, great assembly bodhisattva. At that time, blessed one was Lord in samadhi of the enumeration phenomena called proper illumination. Also at that time, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, the superior Avalokitesh, was contemplating on the meaning of the profound perfection of wisdom, and saw that the 5 aggregates also empty of inherent existence. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said this to Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, superior Avalokitesha. How should son or daughter of good lineage train who wishes to practice profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Bodhisattva Mahasattva, superior Avalokitesha, said this to Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good lineage wishes to practice profound perfection should view in this way. They should correctly view those 5 aggregates of empty. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. Empty is not other than form, emptiness is not other than. In the same way, feeling and just composition factors are conscious of empty. Shariputra, in the same way, all phenomena are merely empty, they are without characteristic. They are not created, they do not cease, they have no impurity. They are not devoid of impurity, they do not decrease and increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factors, no consciousness, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no form, no smell, no taste, no touch, no phenomenon. There is no eye, elemental soul for the mind, and no doing. Under consciousness, there is no ignorance, no exhaustion, no ignorance. There is no aging and death, no exhaustion, aging and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, no power, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because bodhisattvas have no attainment, they depend on and abide in the perfection of wisdom, because their minds are without obstacle. They are without fear, having completely passed beyond, they go to completion thereof. All Buddhas abide in 3 towns, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, because many Buddhas have said perfect and complete enlightenment. Through the mantra of perfection of wisdom, mantra of great knowledge, that was the mantra of equal and mantra that thoroughly pacify all suffering. Because it unfolds, it should be known as true. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tadyata Gade Gade Baran Gade Barazan Gade Bodhisattva. Shariputra Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train the profound perfection of wisdom that way. Then the blessed one rose to samadhi, said the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, superior Avalokitesha, well done, well done, well. One of good lineage is just so, and is like profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have taught. Even the Tathagatas will rejoice in this. Blessed, and having so spoken, Venerable Shariputra, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, superior Avalokitesha, All those gathered there and those who gathered, gods, demigods, Gandharvas were filled with admiration, praise the words of blessing. Tatyada Gada Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Gada Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Tatyada Gada Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Gada Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Barazangada Buddha, Gada Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Tatyada Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Barangada Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Tadyadangada Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Tadyadangada Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Tadyadangada Barangada Barazangada Buddha, Zoa. Nama, I pay homage to the Master, I pay homage to Buddha, I pay homage to Buddha Dharma, I pay homage to Sangha, I pay homage to Blessed Mother, perfection wisdom. By the power of paying homage to you, all may our words of truth triumph in just long ago. Shakra, the King of our God, proved that by meditating on profound meaning, reciting the words of Blessed Mother, perfection, successfully repel all demonic obstacles and evil spirits and the like. So in this very same way, we also, through the power of meditating on profound meaning and reciting words of Blessed and perfection, be able to repel obstacles and disharmonious factors. May they be annihilated, may they be pacified. Namo, I pay homage to the Master, I pay homage to Buddha, I pay homage to the Dharma, I pay homage to the Son, I pay homage to Blessed Mother, perfection. By the power of paying homage to you, may our words of truth. Just as long ago, Shakra, the King of gods, through the power of meditating on profound meaning, reciting words of Blessed Mother, perfection, because successfully repel all demonic obstacles, evil being and the like. So in the very same way, may we also, through the power of meditating on the profound meaning of the recite words of Blessed Mother, perfection, wisdom, be able to repel obstacles of disharmonious fact. May they be annihilated, may they be pacified. Namo, I pay homage to the Master, I pay homage to Buddha, I pay homage to the Dharma, I pay homage to Sangha, I pay homage to Blessed Mother, perfection, wisdom. By the power of paying homage to you all, may all of us the truth down. Just so long ago, Shakra, the King of gods, with the power of meaning, profound meaning, and reciting words of Blessed Mother, perfection, wisdom, successfully repel all demonic obstacles, evil being and the like. So in the very same way, may I also, through the power of meditating on profound meaning and profound attitude, perfection, wisdom, be able to repel obstacles of the soul fact. May they be annihilated, may they be pacified. May all outer and inner obstacles are turning and turning and completed, pacified. Nyaba jo zanje jodan zoje jonala chanjo bardo dane jazuje dage jenye jeba dage nala benjo zanje nyaba jo. In Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, I take refuge until I am reached. By the merit of listening to this teaching, may I attain Buddha for the sake of all living beings. Damje damje dewa da devi juda dembara juje donga da donga ji juda ndawara juje donga me be dewa da me dawa juje nyere jada nyeda ndawe tanya la nebara juje. May all living beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separated from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings live attachment and hatred towards near ones afar by living with equanimity. May all living beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separate from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings live attachment and hatred towards near ones afar by living with equanimity. Namje zambada loye chera jedawa jeja de moende baye jeje angolo gardozo. In accordance with this bliss, intelligent sentient beings, we request to turn the Dharma will of aggressor, lesser and common vehicle. So, as you know, this term we have studied, looked at the analytical meditation on the 6 paramitas. We started off the first evening talking about what the 6 paramitas generally are, how the intentional bodhicitta, the wishing to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, the very strong wish with which one wishes to dedicate one's life and time until enlightenment reach for the sake of other beings, is that which practice transcends the ego. Otherwise, every single effort people do make, whether it's morality, whether it's meditation, whatever they do, they try to promote the ego. They try to judge each other on the basis of what they do or what they don't do well. So whole practice, Mahayana Buddhism, is actually transcend the ego. It's not to promote or develop the ego. So the whole practice of transcendental practice is how we can transcend the ego, the self-centeredness, the selfishness, even if one does do any of the 6 practices. But if it does practice these for one's own benefit and then to harm or judge each other, then it's just to defeat the very purposes. So therefore, these 6 transcendental practices, how each of the practices like generosity and so on, should be done in the spirit of altruism, simply for the benefit of others. And it's not a question of right or wrong, but a question of how we can transcend our ego and to do whatever for the benefit of others. So 6 paramitas we covered thereafter each of the nights, and tonight we're going to look at what is called the 4 persuasions. Sometimes they call 10 paramitas, but here we will not talk in the context of 10 paramitas because these 4 are not part of the 10 paramitas. But these 4 persuasions are for encouragements, how to do the 6 perfections even better in application. So that's why there's a little bit of overlap with what the 4 persuasions are, because 4 persuasions are basically generosity. So generosity was covered exhaustively, but here we will look at how specifically the generosity in a conduct of right speech can be utilized, because here we have generosity, pleasant language, which means right speech, meaning speaking very kindly and pleasantly, so that whether you practice generosity or whether you practice pleasant language, it should all employ the 6 perfections, 6 qualities, and how each of these practices then become a beneficial conduct, benevolent conduct. Even if you practice discipline, if you do it for one's own self, that I'm much purer or saner or more humble than others, then it doesn't become beneficial conduct. It actually becomes a competitive, try to compete oneself with others. And so here, these 4, generosity as a general thing, what we do that actually benefits others, and then when we talk about pleasant language, the pleasant language could be the very form of generosity. Generosity is restricted to giving things, but actually how generous we are verbally. If we are not generous verbally, what's the benefit of generous materially? If you can give with one hand, slap with another. So we could be generous a lot, but then if we harsh language to each other or about each other, then all the generosity becomes completely wasted. So therefore, these 6 paramitas should be interpenetrated together with these 4 persuasions. And if they are interpenetrated, then they become very beneficial. Then they become very beneficial to all concerned, not just the person who performs it, person who performs for others specifically, but everybody benefits it. Even those who witnessed, even those who overseer, those who just witnesses, they also benefit. So it's that kind of transcendental practice. And then it becomes the very exemplary practices. So generally speaking, beneficial conduct refers to that you do things with others for others, even though you don't need to do it. You've done many times, yourself, but you do it there just with others, so that they have a company, so that they have the encouragement, so that they see the others do with them and they were encouraged. That's how they learned. So that's beneficial conduct is whether it's tolerance or not. Maybe you don't need to be shown so much tolerance, but being with others, you show tolerance, then it also inspires others. So you are doing tolerance, not just that you are good at it, but because there are lots of people who are not tolerant and they don't see examples of tolerance, then they don't. There's got zero tolerance. Yeah, there is zero tolerance. Yeah, nobody practice tolerance. So if you try to tolerate within a community where nobody tolerates, then it actually promotes that it's possible. It's actually a sign of strength rather than weakness. So practicing tolerance for the benefit of others, that is possible to practice. That when someone does practice, it may be hard and really difficult, but the benefit is enormous. Everybody really see it's possible. They get inspired. So beneficial conduct. Exemplary is that you do things with and for others, but do tell them that it's possible. Look, you did it. You did it yourself. You just encourage them, not put them down, judge each other, saying, you failed this and you're not in my books, and almost cut off each other. But instead, try to do something with others and give them the credit, so that they actually realize they were given compliment to do, and therefore they were shown examples. It's possible they can do. Instead of telling them off, putting them off, shunning them, and despising for their little mistakes. A bodhisattva must not discourage or make anybody, or however heavy or wrongdoing, there's a bodhisattva who makes someone guilty by telling them off what they did, is against bodhisattva. So the bodhisattva should be possible to how we can help them to regain their faith and confidence by telling them, look, you did it. You weren't there 2 weeks ago. Now you're doing it. Look at this. You try to encourage them, and we may call them rehabilitation in kind of professional fields, telling them. But actually, they're doing that just simply because the person who couldn't lift his leg can lift a little leg. Maybe they're doing just that. But we need to like people's morale or confidence or themselves or their past. They shouldn't think this is my relationship with dad and it's finished and never be the same. We'll never talk again. Instead of saying, look, just remember a few things. So you start telling some few words. See, you got lots of positive relation with your dad. Come on. Not lumping all with bad things, So this is called exemplary conduct. So here I have specifically chosen tonight to use the pleasant language as an example, using the pleasant speech as an example, how to interpenetrate the 4 persuasion plus the 6 perfections together. So these are basically mindfulness practice. Firstly, say when we are using the altruistic motivation, selfless motivation to do something, usually when we are speaking, we just say whatever we feel like, We are not mindful. Who am I speaking to? You become mindful. Who am I speaking to? If I'm going to speak like this, who am I really speaking to? People, the person you're speaking to might be a little bit senior in knowledge or age or position, who you have respect to. Maybe your parents. I can't speak like this to my parents. I can't speak like that to my boss. I can't speak like that to someone who's sick or unwell or like that, Even in bus, they said they should give the seat to the disabled people, They have allocated a seat. And so therefore you say, so it's not. So therefore one becomes the pleasant speech, if, try to speak. This is all, when you become mindful of who am I speaking to, the person you're speaking to specifically becomes so important. Because if somebody is very senior in knowledge, age, and position, these are more objects of respect.
Others would be objects of, because it's a whole group of people. You're not just feeling bad about one person and then lumping everybody together. It's like saying all the Christians are bad, just because all Muslims are bad, just because they are, suffusing and they're lumping all together. And then there are 20 Muslim people there, and if you say, it will hurt every one of them. And so you be mindful. So that mindfulness, not speaking harsh language, is generosity. It's a discipline. It's a patience. It's a diligence. It's a concentration. It's a wisdom. So basically, all the six practices are there. Yeah, when you see, I shouldn't be saying this to. There's a whole group of people. I can't say that to him. He's elderly man or whatever. Straight away you give recognition. Or objects of pity, someone who's sick, someone who's depressed, someone who has been has been a lot of things going wrong in his life, and you start thinking of that, they become objects of pity. I can't say this to. They had already exposed enough difficulties. I should not be saying this, and so that's who am I speaking to? So that is discipline. That is generosity. That is mindfulness. That is tolerance. That is diligence. That is meditation. That is wisdom. You can see, and then somebody who are condemned by everybody. Everybody condemns somebody. If there's one bodhisattva practitioner, everybody condemns somebody. It's really good to have somebody who understands, supports them. It will enliven his faith. It's called persuasion. How do we make sure that person's hope is not dashed? Because everybody can do that. How can we dare to be different? That's a bodhisattva. Transcend your ego. Because everybody don't want to put their ego online. They say, no, we have nothing to do with him. We don't see him anymore. We don't work with him anymore. We don't endorse his work. Everybody does that, Everybody does, because they are. You know why? They think their ego, their company is under risk, Not because he's did something wrong, because their company. So, you know what I mean? Amazing. It's all selfishness is quite revealed. It's nothing to do with the person. It's all about their selfishness is revealed. Now, one who therefore thinks like this, then realize this is the object of someone everybody condemns. They should be the object of kindness and forgiveness and support and by way of transcending one's ego. And there, due to that mindfulness, then one doesn't treat the others, condemn that like every other person does. Speak harshly like everybody other does. And therefore, one is generous with that. One is tolerant. One is disciplined. One is practicing the discipline. One is diligent to practice that. One is concentrated to do that. And one has wisdom to do that. So, objects of like somebody, 5 of your friends are all angry at something. Objects of aversion. Everybody's angry. They're all discontented. They're all disappointed. It's so easy because every one of them are egotistically trying to preserve their ego. So everyone who's angry is just wrapped up in their anger. It's nothing what the other person does. It's their own anger is beating them many times. Now, if we join that, then we are not doing any persuasion to help anybody who might be rejected by everyone. So therefore, objects of aversion. If everybody's objects of aversion, like Angulimala was thrown stone by everybody. Everybody was after him. Shakyamuni Buddha alone embraced him, let him surrender his weapon and admit it in the sangha. Because he was practitioner of the 6 Paramitas and the persuasion. Not lump him with his one mistake. What we call in the West, throwing baby with the bathwater. If bathwater become very dirty, we forget we forget that there's a baby in there. The whole idea of the bath water is to wash the dirtiness of the baby so that baby can be separated from the dirt. It wasn't to lump them together. See, we can't tolerate. See, that's the whole thing. We took a lot of time to wash the baby. That's already generosity. and whatever it is. But throwing the whole thing with that is not. So therefore, one mindfully don't speak to everybody's condemned person as a condemned one, but rather with encouragement. So we'll talk about how to speak later on. But here we're specifically talking about who am I speaking to? Who these objects are? Who am I? Put in relation to ourselves. Second is the appropriateness of time and place that you're going to do something. So the first is in relation to people or objects. Second is appropriateness time. Is this an appropriate place to talk? To whatever you're going to do. People feel like rolling their sleeves and charging at something. They don't realize it's inside a temple or inside a, whatever people, every single, when you look at it, they should respect the place. It's never is the place set up as a fighting place or or whatever it looks like. So when you're very mindful, when you're very bodhisattva, you realize this is not a place to do this. So you realize it is an appropriate place to do this, place to raise this issue, And is the right time to discuss? Then they look like maybe it's not a good time. It's a volatile. It's a bit. Everybody's very, very sort of edgy. It's not going to make it any benefit. What's the point of saying this? So you look at the appropriateness, time and place, and the object to whom you do. That is persuasion. What is persuasion? You're persuading to practice generosity. You're persuading yourself to be more disciplined. Without this mindfulness, there's no persuasion. There's only dissuasion. You say, don't do that. Zero tolerance. Dissuading to practice tolerance. Dismiss him. He doesn't deserve this. Everybody dissuading each other. Persuasion. This is, in Bodhisattva's for persuasion is, how can we give something generous and speak kindly and then do beneficial things and exemplary things, and then of course we get to do the persuasive practice, So therefore, assess the appropriateness of place and time and to whom. And this time that usually most people don't give, most people do not do the persuasion, is not generosity. Those who do these things are definitely generosity, definitely discipline. They are disciplining themselves not to overreact. That's a good discipline. They're disciplining themselves to not to say something, but to say something good. Do something good instead. And they are trying to do good, not to themselves look good, but do good for the benefit of the other. See, the intent is very altruistic. And then not letting others create an example, but one try to innovatively create an example. And so, therefore, do not let it think it's unprecedented, nobody did it, why should I do it type of thing. Be the first one to do that. And then, who am I to speak on this in this manner? Am I qualified to speak like this? Yeah. Straight away there's a discipline, restraint. Who the hell I am? It's so easy to pass the judgment and remark on others without realizing, what am I? What kind of qualification I have? Am I immaculate? Am I spotless? When you try to do that, then you're persuading. That is generosity. That is generous because you gave that time and you're disciplined not to judge or jump like that. And what is my credential? Yeah, you just say, what is my credential to do this? Straight away then your generosity, your diligence, your discipline, all these things are cultivated. Have they asked my opinion, is it because somebody requested my opinion because it's so immaculate? So you usually know. Do I know the full story? Most people who really jumped into they don't know the whole story at all. They only know a little bit what they just heard from the hearsay. So Therefore, it restrains the unpleasant speaking mind, critical speaking mind, negative speaking mind. So all the restraining of the negative language becomes pleasant, and that's become discipline. And then minding oneself from saying that is the generosity. You're generous to practice tolerance. You're disciplined to practice generous. You're diligent to practice tolerance. And so you can now penetrate the six perfections. Yeah, six perfection in this manner. So you are dissuading from taking wrong actions, and you're persuading to do the tolerant thing, patient thing, compassionate thing, diligent thing, altruistic thing. And then of course, some people have their cause for to speak is so great, doesn't matter where, when, who, the cause is so driven, they've got to say it. Well, then why should I speak at all? So this is really considering the cause of it, So usually people want to correct the problem and fix the world and make it a wonderful place. They have this kind of fantasy, and they open their mouth. They think it's going to make it many times better. To remove the emotional disturbances. So one needs to, if I'm going to say something useful, persuasive, it is to remove the emotional disturbances, anger or hate or irrational mind or whatever. I'm going to say something for purpose of removing that. Is this what I'm about to do? To allay the fear and anxiety they may have. Yeah, see, now you're really coming together. Now you're coming together very well. And to de-escalate the problem, not to fix the problem. You see, most people want to fix the problem and they make it many times worse. The de-escalation, that's the practice of peace, generosity. This is practice of generosity. Generosity de-escalates the problem. Try to fix the problem, escalates the problem. And one who is persuading, he persuades to do what is least done. What is so easy to tempting to do must be dissuaded. What is not done at all should be persuaded. This is how to persuade virtue, how to persuade selflessness, how to persuade tolerance when people aren't practicing tolerance, how to persuade generosity when people aren't practicing generosity, whether they speak or what they do. So because of that, if I'm going to do something, this is to de-escalate the problem, not to fix the problem. This is a very dangerous thing that we can fix it. America or countries think when they think they can fix the problem, they made it many times worse. After many years, now they're realizing that now they're not going as quickly as possible. They try to de-escalate, then try to make some diplomatic thing before they can go straight. See, people learning hard way. You see, even in a because they realize through mistakes they learn, but they don't have the wisdom to think this beforehand. Not to highlight anyone's faults, but provide solution. You see, this is the whole thing. Most people, when they try to fix the problem, they want to highlight the people. They wanted to pin down people as to solve the problem. And then you won't have any people left. You have a dry principle or without any people. So here, not to highlight anyone's faults, but provide solution. This is exactly the Dharma is, You should persuade to practice practical solution. Be kind, be gentle, be compassionate, be forgiving. These are real solutions. These are golden solutions. These are liquid gold solutions, These are not just try to see who's wrong and who's right. That's not going to get you anywhere. That's all the wars fought on the basis of trying to prove who's right and who's wrong, whether it's at personal level or whether it's international level or bigger scale. To remove any doubts and confusion without taking sides. Yeah, because often when people try to help, they're taking sides. And they don't realize that has completely tipped the balance and made the problem many times worse. They don't know how their position is very, very negative. And so remove any doubts and confusion. There's enough confusion, enough misunderstanding. And unless we are very clear-headed, what we do going to make things take huge sides, and then we only later on we regret. What the hell did we try to do that for? one who's persuasive will have cool-headedness, will have tolerance, will have diligence, will have bodhicitta, will have compassion to all concerned, and therefore they will not, go into this punitive measure, but rather try to remove the causes of the problems, not to lump things and make it worse. Yeah, often that's what happens. Try to solve the problem, they make the problem bigger by lumping. It's all this country's fault, or this person's fault, or it's lumping everything together, and then make it worse. They don't realize how their own position is making things worse. Not taking any responsibility, their own reaction, overreaction is going to be very very kind of inflammatory, and that's going to make it many times worse. One who is persuasive, practicing Bodhisattva's way of life for persuasions, it's always try to find a diplomatic or peaceful way. That's persuasion. You not really have to be persuaded to go to war. They are always on the war. We have to dissuade them from going war. We dissuade them into fighting and taking actions. So, and to discuss that is relevant to solve the problem. Often people are missing the real point. Real point is ignored. Completely unrelated issues are discussed. The real point is left in the cold. And so we should therefore persuade how not to do that. What is the main issue? By not judging but helping and promotion of harmony. A bodhisattva try to promote harmony but not judging one, and then make it look at cause huge division and schism by doing that, by not judging one but try to help promote friendship and harmony, mutual respect. That is Bodhisattva's work. Is like Bodhisattva, like Shakyamuni Buddha. He built a stupa called Stupa of Reconciliation. He built a stupa asking people all come to that to make peace and drop the fighting. When everybody took part in bringing various materials and build a stupa together, all the energies that they were wasting in fighting at each other, much less than that, you brought timber and these things, build a stupa and a symbol of peace and reconciliation, and everybody stopped fighting, That's the kind of a persuasion practice we should do. Why don't we do that? Why don't we spend for doing that? Have a meeting on that. So this is what we call how to persuade people to practice generosity, practice tolerance, instead of inflaming the problem by using countermeasures. That's only going to make it many times worse. By not naming and blaming people, often try to solve the problem by singling out people as they are the ringleader. They are the one who caused the problem, and then try to make them hanged or stoned. That kind of thing is not bodhisattvic. That is not kind, not compassionate, not tolerant. And so instead, one needs to help the person. One needs to help the person who is misunderstood by not naming them or blaming them. It's a very, very intolerant society. They say they should name and blame. And then what it has done is then it has broken the whole community. And because if you name one person, he has a half a dozen, 2 dozen friends, and then they all got hurt. And so how many you have got left now in the community? Not much. So that's how you succeed to split. That's how you succeed to cause just disharmony. But it should be seen as a collective responsibility to celebrate when good things comes, even when difficult things, that everybody should go and help. Not try to see who did it wrong. How can we help to mend that? By placing focus on the problem, not people or gender. Often people use gender issues or people issues or cultural issues or racial issues, and then try to divide the problem. They make the problem even much bigger without actually looking at the overall picture. So that's why it is by focusing on the problem. Buddha said truth of origin of the problem. Not kind of secondary, peripheral, and pseudo causes of the problem. These are not going to solve the problem. So therefore, we persuade people to practice the transcendental, 6 transcendental practice, the altruism, to do that. And because you can't really, if you focus on the people, you think he did this, and then you just lump the person with it. Don't realize what he did is interdependently originated. It's not he didn't do it all by himself. There were gamuts of other causes or conditions. See, we talked about dependent origination, So if he failed something also, it's not the entire fault. Even he achieved something also, it's not entirely his doing. It's all interdependent. Generosity is, they say even if you're a generous person, you did not do it all by yourself. The thing you gave is not yours. To whom you gave is just assisted you to as much as you giving of it. So everything is interdependent. So that's how you transcend the grasping to the generosity thinking I gave. Likewise, faults of somebody doing, we should also think it's interdependent relation. See, then you're not focusing on the people or things. The actual problem of not having the wisdom that transcend the problem. So these 4 points, what do we call the who does it, to whom they do it, when and where, and so on. Then now if we focus on the main topic, like the pleasant speech. For pleasant speech has been used as a practice. Good speech as an example how you can interpenetrate the 6 perfection plus the 4 persuasion. For instance, what is the objective of your speech? What is the objective of you talking about something? And then you straight away could become more composed. Speaking gently what is pleasant to the listener's ears, that is truthful, which is accord with Dharma and beneficial. So these are very important. Firstly, pleasant to the listener's ear. But even though you want to say the point, but make sure that the words that you use are very appealing, very diplomatic. That's what I looked at, very diplomatic way of using. If you can use that, then you are persuading people to pay heed to what you're saying. Say that is really, really truthful. That is not biased, and also truthful, but not to punitive measure. Truthful, but what is trying to accord with Dharma. What's the purpose of Dharma is to help sentient beings. Just to say that what is truth and untruth, you don't try to divide people. You don't try to say what is wrong and what is right as two things, because they're only mutually inclusive, remember? So because of that, that is according to the Dharma, like the 6 perfection, according to the perfection of generosity. How are you going to do it? Perfection of self-discipline and so on. So according to the Dharma, and that is beneficial. So that's the people sometimes just driven by things, and they don't realize what they did not produce any benefit, but they just burn their own fingers. So therefore, the objective has to be very persuasive to do the virtuous, wholesome things. 6 perfection. How can we persuade not to fail to do the perfection, and not to do anything opposite to the 6 perfections? My inner goodness should enhance the good. Instead the good, not worsen the situation. Yeah. So the mindfully person says, if I'm going to say something, my goodness is going to add to this, I'm doing this in order to improve this, not to worsen this situation. And that's a persuasion, isn't it? Often people don't realize what they're going to count. Oh, I made it worse. Made it worse. But how to persuade to not make it worse? So one needs to become very present in my inner goodness. Inner goodness should enhance the good, not worsen the situation. Because sometimes people could paint a very negative picture as if there's nothing positive, and then make everybody become enraged, and then make them believe. Very, very, you can inflame them. You can just spread the poison. Here the exact opposite. How to de-escalate that? By bringing something good, and that actually reveals the good and not worsen the situation. it should show the lack of anger and resentment. If we are doing something persuasive to practice any of the 6 perfections, it should be that we should lack anger and resentment. If we have anger and resentment as an intention which drives us to do something, then it will defeat. It will not be persuasive practice, it will be destructive practice. So therefore one need to see the objective must not be motivated by anger and resentment. To make the speakers to facially express lack of aggression. The person actually realized that if I'm going to say something in a calm and warm way so that it doesn't manifest any aggression. See, one is now to persuade doing virtuous things, to patient things, to generous things, to disciplined things. One need to dissuade such as aggressive physical facial expression or raising the voice or the tone or use the particular words. Now, so if that is very contemplatively recognized by the person subjectively saying, look, how do I look, how do I look if I really raise the voice? They look in the mirror, they look awful, So almost think, how would I appear if I said this in front of people, You spend a good half an hour making yourself dressing in the morning, getting a look good, but all of a sudden you just wrecked it in a couple of minutes. You just look awful, The people may be looking very well dressed or presentable, but the moment they open the mouth of resentment, anger, they just completely made it so awful. So this is how you try to practice patience. How you persuade to practice patience. Would I look good if I say these words and stand like this? And one become us. So that persuade us to practice tolerance and speak kindly and do the beneficial conduct, what is exemplary conduct, very generous, and so on. So one become it to open up peaceful and friendly environment. Maybe there's already tension that is not quite peaceful, very volatile, very tense. Now if it's already that, now what we're going to do is we're trying to persuade to make it's just turning it into things skillfully, isn't it? Rather than making the volatile situation even more disruptive, more kind of like a time bomb type of thing. So to open up a peaceful, friendly environment. So, it's what you say, what you do, how you crack a joke, and that might do the trick, A bodhisattva has to be very persuasive, You just say, "Oh, there's a fire," whatever you can say. You just think they all forget the problem and just ran out of it. When things are very tense going, you can just come. "Oh, there's a fire, please." See, the bodhisattva is going to do anything by hook or crook. Don't get sort of swayed by the negativities, It needs a little bit of humor. And to bring some order and balance, the elements of all, because there's a lot of imbalanced situation over there. How do you, if there's like 5 people, who are not agreeing over one point, or one person is sort of looks to be like not liked by everybody, how can we make sure that he's not ostracized? How can we look that person isn't felt like unsupported? And how can we do that? This is what we're talking about. Bring some order, because we are losing one person. One is too much, One is too much if you are for a bodhisattva. Bodhisattva doesn't matter 2 people, we still got 4 left. Bodhisattva wanted to look after every single being's plight is bodhisattva's issue. So they don't want to protect 4 and then ostracize 1. That is not. So therefore, one needs to bring some order and balance. And so you need to therefore use very persuasive language. Welcome. Please come in. Very nice to have you here. Or whatever it is that you gotta change the environment, the tense feeling. And to implant a seed of happiness and remove any adverse emotions. Of course, people still have some kind of pains or hurts and ill will or discontentment. That's their karma. But quite a lot of them are Colorado then can switch it off. If you just were skillful, you can say something. People are not going to go there for a while. If you can be persuasive, this is what a practice of persuasion. How can you persuade people to be tolerant and respectful and kind? And then, as a result of somebody saying, "Yeah," then they also came to their senses, and they were not. They didn't sort of vent their discontentment because someone is able to do that. But if you really off your track, you can do the exact opposite. You can instigate everybody's weak points and make them all charge up just because oneself is discontented. To make up for things that they lack, so the Bodhisattva must, whatever the energy is lacking, we won't try to do it to make up for it and then try to change the flavor, change the whole morale or energy or understanding. So Bodhisattva is always persuading, how to diffuse the problem, how to make sure that this does not go into that wrong direction. How does Bodhisattva do it? And so if a Bodhisattva is very kind and compassionate and altruistic, he definitely can make a huge difference where the whole group of crowd will go in which direction. If there's one careful, skillful Bodhisattva, it can prevent that. Yeah, and to know how to speak that is pleasant. Then saying because of that, you got to know what to say out of respect to everybody, not feeling anybody's excluded or forgotten, but knowing how to speak gently, and maybe use very nice kind of words that makes people feel respected, and all of a sudden they calm down as a result of that. And you're not saying they're completely immaculate, but at the same time you're not making them feel already edgy. They're already pretty sensitive, pretty sort of volatile, and then if you say some kind words, that can calm down. That's a pleasant word. That sensitivity is generosity. That sensitivity is a discipline. That sensitivity is a tolerance. That sensitivity is a diligence. That sensitivity is meditation. That sensitivity is wisdom. And then it's just wisdom doesn't mean you just sit in emptiness and then you don't care. As you realize emptiness and nothing matters. But every single skillful activity matters. It's not the lack of inherent existence. It's existence of dependent origination we are trying to encourage to happen. What is the missing ingredient that we are trying to find and make things work? And we are trying to say, there's nothing that won't work. We still try to find something that the missing link is provided so that whole thing could be restored. Yeah. And to know how to speak, to consciously know and restrain what is unpleasant thing to say. Is exactly the Bodhisattva restrains unpleasant speech and instead practice right speech. That's generosity. Restraining non-virtuous speech is discipline. And tolerating, never minding the effort that is required to say good words, even though you really feel a little something, but you just swallow the pride. That is tolerance. Still saying very positively, encouragingly to others, saying, look, if somebody doesn't do this, the whole group is not in a good... That diligently, passionately say that, and people can straight away find some light that they can follow. Otherwise, there was darkness that nobody is able to see, that are following dark. So if somebody triggers that, this is what we call saving people. What do we call saving people from going to, darkness to darkness? But how can we bring them back from losing into the darkness, but showing them towards the light? And that kind of effort is concentration, is meditation, is wisdom. So we are not talking about lack of existence. We're talking about lack of inherent existence. Because if it's a lack of inherent existence, every bits and pieces could make a difference to tip the balance. And so therefore we got to persuade. We got to persuade people we got to encourage each other to do what is wholesome and beneficial, and rather than do the exact opposite. To speak kindly to those who are angry and disturbed. Now this is very important, because usually people don't want to go. People want to ignore those who are angry. They think that he deserves it. Type of thing. We should actually feel that person who is angry and disturbed, we should show more kindness to the person. It's not fault of his own, poor thing. He have a driven cause in his mind, but unless we pay attention to them, and they will be rejected. They will be saying that he's too short-tempered or too angry or whatever. And then again we're missing sentient being. We're losing something. So therefore consciously know, and be kind to those who are not with themselves, who are not in good space. If they have a good space at all, they completely misplaced it. So who will tell them how to regain their goodness? If we are persuasive, we don't tell them you're short-tempered, you're angry, you're a violent person, or you're a violent person. He's a violent person. Yeah, he's a violent man. Or he's an alcoholic. People say they give one name and they just think that's always the person is always alcoholic, even though he didn't have anything to drink whole day. They still think he's alcoholic. They just lump it instead of encouraging him. That's persuasion means try to change them, try to modify them through our skillfulness, not think they are independently alcoholic or independently violent. They're made up by our intolerance. Makes that way. So it's totally dependent on each other's kind of what we call wording or expression or interdependent origination. Particularly those who are angry and not with themselves, If we see that they are truly inherently existing angry person, that's the problem. We think that's it. We don't realize that person has cause and conditions in which he just happened to be there. And whether it's philosophical, whether it's emotional, whether it's historical, whatever, there's some kind of grievance there. And if we can help the person to be cared for, they don't want to be angry. They don't want to be like that. They wish somebody can help them to get rid of it. But if everybody thinks he's like that and lump him, and he will completely misunderstood and rejected. And that's exactly. We give them little names and put them badges and put in some department. And stigmatize them as if they come kind of conditions. As soon as they're given the stigma and condition, people then already feel bad. So we got to persuade them that they are normal. It's quite normal to be angry. Who can be not angry unless you're a rock or some trees? We are human beings. We're made out of a bottle of emotions. And they got to come out somehow or another. So it shouldn't be thought as some kind of unallowable thing. That's the nature of human beings. But don't dwell on it. That's the whole thing. So don't lump the person. He's aggressive. He's a pedophiliac. It's just the person, are totally just made to be shunned by the society by thinking like that. They don't realize what are the underlying causes and conditions the society itself did not address. And speak gently to those. Speak gently to change the subject to ease the tension. Sometimes, we need to change the subject. The person's not changing the subject, They're just so highlighting that. They're just making that so wild, yes. They are not able to change the subject. If you are there among the situation, then mindfully persuade to change the subject. Try to change the subject slowly. And all of a sudden, people feel really good. They don't need to talk about that because it wasn't really pleasant. Everybody was reaching to a point of desperation. It's not looking good. And somebody can slowly bring the topic and something else, like talk about the man who everybody thinks should punish because his violence or beat somebody or whatever. Just talk about some of his skills, just some of the goodness of him, Then everybody realizes he's actually got a lot to offer. He should be acknowledged for those things too. He does care about things, but he just is completely misunderstood by everybody. Everybody does that. So we got to persuade each other. Please be kind. Please don't say too much like that. Let's talk about these things. And then the person is allowed to assess himself. Look, they're not all thinking I'm like that. They're also acknowledging my good points. And then they will be encouraged and persuaded. Otherwise, the person who is shunned and punished and ridiculed, everybody, he doesn't have a space. There is not a place he belongs to. He's not understood, he's not persuaded, he's not encouraged. He's just punished and beaten or thrown stones at him. That's not persuasion. That's not bodhisattvas. That's not bodhisattva's way of life. Bodhisattva's way of life is to practice tolerance and kindness and forgiveness, and all the wholesome things should be practiced in relation to the people who are misunderstood, who are punished, who are rejected, who are disturbed. Where is the kindness going to practice? With Buddha practicing kindness to the other Buddhas? Or kindness should be practiced to helpless sentient beings who are angry, who are deluded, who are violent, who are like that. So therefore, one shouldn't idolize a world, but rather try to make it worth a while amidst all those, among the unsatisfactory things. What can we make a difference to their lives? Not try to see as only if we didn't have people like him in this society, our world would be such a good, that kind of idealization. Then become very intolerant. Then we become very punitive, and we want to destroy them, and we want to stop anyone from they don't realize, the whole idea of thinking, we don't want, when you come to Australia, they feel this form that have you committed a crime or something, as if there's no criminals in Australia, Actually, this is a convict continent. This is land of ex-criminals. Ex-criminals and their generation. And their children, basically. It's amazing. Every country does that. Can you believe that? Every country does that. They don't want any criminal to come. They idolize. They think that the country is so good only if we don't get people like you to come in the country. Of course you have to do something, nobody who's a criminal said, no, yes, I'm a criminal. Anyway, they're not that stupid. They probably got all sorts of arrangement happening that nobody's going to catch them. It's almost like waste of paper and ink and time. Every person coming to the field is I'm sure you have better intelligence than that to find out what really the person's up to, And then, amazing. Just they then judge you, stop you, they pull you over because your beard or because your color of skin. This. You don't do that. That's little communities get divided by doing that. So, bodhisattvas have to dissuade those things, persuade what everybody's doing least, and to hold no grudge to even those who are unruly. That's if you seem to be holding grudge to somebody who did something, then that's really resentment. You're basically promoting resentment and anger. A bodhisattva should persuade others to not hold any grudge, even whatever they did. And they still need to be ruled and tamed. Your resentment will not tame them. Your aggression will not tame them. So what have you better? You are resentful what they did, and then what they did is also probably the result of resentment anyway, so you're not really a big difference. So the one who's supposed to be better than the one who did something wrong should be more forgiving, not resentment. Resentment makes people to do unruly things. But brooding resentment and anger is just the cause of it. The result would be very soon manifest. So therefore, it's no point complaining the result if you're creating the cause of it. So the bodhisattva should dissuade that and persuade, uncreating the causes. And so as to produce no effect that is unpleasant. to speak respectfully to people and to who are condemned by other people. And that's really, people will feel that they've been treated as equals. But if everybody treats someone very, very unkindly or very biasly, if somebody does it, it gives them encouragement. There's a hope. Somebody at least understood me. And then they realize they too have kindness, they too have a good heart, they too have ability to forgive. Otherwise, nobody persuade him to do that. How do we persuade? We need to encourage people, rather than discourage people. So easy to discourage people in no time. It takes 20 years to build somebody's faith, and that took a long time. But to destroy their faith is so easy. You just make some few discouraging remarks, and you will have it. But to encourage faith is so difficult. You talk a lot of the qualities of Buddha, a lot of qualities of Dharma, a lot of qualities. Still, people are still not so easy to have faith. Still, they say, "Oh, Buddha, did he come? Was he really like that?" See, if you say the negative things, very easy, quickly get a reaction. See, this society is very based on the negative. They thrive on negativity. They don't have an appetite for saying persuasive things. So we need to change the culture. As soon as somebody speaks kindly towards somebody, look, Angulimala was misunderstood by everybody, and so was everybody. But one person like Shakyamuni Buddha skillfully can give him the persuasion, then he becomes a sangha, a ordained monk. He has a good reason to renounce samsara because he did many terrible things. But if it wasn't the Buddha, everybody would have stoned him to death. So Buddha practiced persuasion to tell him that one should not need to remain in the past if you are taking the steps to change yourself. Now, if you try to punish, if you try to tell how it's bad, then make him more guilty, put the pressure on him, and that's people feel like dying or killing themselves because of this kind of pressure. They don't want to live because very few are encouraging and supporting and understanding. So Bodhisattva's way of life is what everybody ignores and doesn't do, because they have to transcend their ego. They have to be willing to swallow the inconvenience and being able to do what everybody shuns, everybody doesn't do. And Bodhisattva transcend the ego by willing to do what is least understood by everyone. To support those who are deeply sad, hurt, and ignorant. Now that's exactly it. Because a lot of people, family members included, if somebody is sad and depressed, then they slowly put them in somewhere. They don't want to do anything with it. They just had enough. They don't want to even visit. They put an institution or put somebody else. One should actually support those people and not give them the label and stigma. You have to understand the suffering of karma is so strong, and if somebody doesn't positively help them, they're never going to get it right. There's so much weight of the blame or anger of the past is already cutting their necks, and somebody is not encouraging them to do positively, then they have no hope. Lots of people, some people may be corrected in the prisons. Most people they are getting worse in the prison. Many commit suicide. They want to try to live outside, but when they get in, they want to die. Too long for 3 more months or whatever. They kill themselves. Lots of people, they hang themselves because they've been treated like that. Treated as this, and there's no hope for them to change or correct themselves. If there is treated with respect, that they still got a lot of goodness in them that need to be encouraged, so therefore, people who are sad, we should support them. We should talk to them about things they have forgotten, and because they're only remembering the bad too much, and very few are helping them to regain the memory of the good. You have to remember the memory of the good. And then the past, the few episodes of sadness is pretty acceptable. Someone got to help him to regain the lost memory of good. So we got to support them. We got to teach them. Dharma teaches like how many points that the kindness of mother. Just remembering even just listing the things and writing them and people seeing them is really good karma. Just spread the voice around, spread the words, share it to people, so that they know that the list of things they are complaining about their mother or the father is completely unsupported by facts. They have completely ignored what good and trying and caring she did. They're not mentioning any of that. We got to persuade the society. We got to change the social attitude about the people. Some people really say, "Look, I'm never going to say to my mom, I love her. I can never say that to her." They say that because they have something over which they're hating or angry, and they think that's it. Because of that, they don't want to open the memory they have lost or denied. Someone needs to skillfully help them to do the otherwise, and then persuade them. Look, even the very big tension that you have between you and your mother is because she cared for you. You loved her, and you wanted her to know that you care, you are grateful. Because of the lack of communication and understanding, the sadness is allowed to go deeper and deeper, and then the person's always closing the chapter. They don't want to regain lost memories that are good. They wanted to amplify the bad memory, which is their own cooking, which is largely their own story that they are so biased to tell, which is only hurting them. They don't know that. They think that this story is going to get them some great points. Deludedly, they didn't realize it is actually harming them unconsciously, self-harming. Emotionally, they are more disturbed, sleeplessly, and whatever it is. They don't realize, but they're blaming to somebody, thinking the mistake of other is pointing them is going to make oneself getting well. Is completely opposite. Exactly. Those who blame others as the cause are actually more miserable. So therefore, we need to support those who are not able to think like that and teach them how to think otherwise. Because hurt and pain and ignorant and deluded and childish, they already are like that. So now we have to go and persuade them that it's possible to turn around. That they have been there too long, and now it's a time they come home. They have wandered too much in the frontiers, and they don't realize that they have a home, they have many loved ones, they have many friends who are willing to forgive them. But someone needs to persuade them, because everybody else is very, very not willing to do. So, no, I want to. No, I don't want it. No. And then we will slowly, that's how we lose people. That's how our own anger get brooded, and we don't have forgiving mind, and we don't encourage them to come and grow themselves up. If we see them grow, we will drop our anger and resentment. So the bodhisattvas do the persuading thing. That persuading is a very skillful act. In the context of the 10 paramitas, they actually call the upaya paramita. There's another one. It's seventh perfection is upaya paramita. Upaya paramita. Upaya means skillful. So these persuasion practices, this pleasant speech, gentle, giving things a time and place and people, is trying to persuade them, try to make them listen to them. You got to encourage them a little bit. You got to say something positive, and you got to give them a chance and encouragement that very few people are giving them. You got to give more time than try to fix them so quickly. Sometimes you don't have to really give much. You got to give more space, your time, and just keep wishing them, praying for them, and include them in your prayer. Don't try to make them change too quickly. Just allow some time and space. In the meantime, you just keep include in your prayer for position. And so don't think they are not going to change. They will change. particularly if we know they will change. We have to change our attitudes. Come on. We are not changing our attitude, and we think he should not changing. We are stuck in our own attitude about the person, and then we don't realize that's the fundamental problem. So if we start changing our attitude, we might even notice the person changing already. Amazing thing about that we are clouded by our own attitude. When we are not aware of our attitudes, we're not really persuasive. We can't be persuading. That's why mindfulness, knowing one's own thought, one's own attitude, is so important. One's own attitude is making oneself see things. If one changes the attitude, that's a generosity, that's a discipline, that's tolerance, And they are learning to rebel against their own attitudes, and they are able to overthrow the anger, overthrow the impatience. If we can alert them to do that, they have the education of highest education. That's what Dharma is only so prized if people did it. Not because they know the theory meaning. If they did the Dharma thing, which means getting well, really. Dharma means getting well. That's what they say, Dharma is medicine. And what does medicine do? If you take the medicine, you get well. Hopefully they're correct medicine. You get well. So if a person is practicing Dharma, it doesn't mean you just do this 2 hours of chanting or 4 hours of these or this many times a week. Those are just formal Dharma. The substance of the Dharma is that we have to get well. We have to remove ill will, and don't reject the sad and the hurt and the ignorant, but attend to them. They are deserving of the medicine. You had this rare medicine, but nobody is sick enough to give this medicine. And when you see the Dharma, people who are deluded, you can see they need Dharma. How can we indirectly, directly influence them to meet the Dharma? And that's the persuasion. That's the persuasion, Lots of people doing this these days. When they teach, people understand the teachings, they say, how can I really make sure that gently, how can we make sure the person meets the Dharma, or reads the Dharma, or understand the Dharma? Without explicitly saying this is Dharma, just some of the ideas, some of the strands of thoughts, if they get introduced to, they will, people are intelligent actually. If they get the right information, if they got the recipe of the right thought, if they recipe of the right view, if they got the recipe of right speech, if the recipe of how to practice tolerance, they will love to do that. They get out in the early morning, 6 o'clock, go to school 12 years to try to change something. Carrying this bag, all these kids, you can see that, the bag, the books are so heavy, And they go in there every morning like this. Hopefully they'll change something, they'll learn something. But until they got Dharma, they really haven't got much. Everything is just from between hand to mouth thing, just to feed, clothe, shelter, and medicine. And that's nothing really special about that. That's everybody can do that. You don't have to spend 10 years studying, 12 years studying, 15 years studying. So even Stone Age people looked after themselves, without degrading, destroying the environment, without digging everything that is in underground. They did quite well, So all this knowledge about how to dig mines and how to do this, these are atrocious, destruction of the very mother nature, and then think they're going to be happy by getting that. They will not, because these things, there are some things that's meant to be kept underground. Some things that's meant to allow to grow up in the air. Some things that's meant to be reaped every autumn. So when you're just so greedy, you just have to dig everywhere and then never mind where you cut open. No respect for the, So therefore, persuading people to have contentment, try to moderate the greed, and have a reasonable kind of a way of showing the contentment with that. So in this way, this 4 persuasion is more like a skillfulness. Yeah, if you do the skillful thing, the seventh paramita is skillful, and the eighth paramita is bala paramita. Bala means inner strength. Inner strength to have a very formidable mind that looks at all avenues such as this. How can you actually employ the activities of the six paramitas? Not just dry conceptual ideas, but actually do the things that are persuading wholesome things. And those you try to be as skillfully as possible, like doing this for persuasion. And those you couldn't do straight away, then you resort to what you call inner strength. That when things get really difficult and doesn't go very well, just don't lose yourself in overreacting to it. Just stay firm that this will pass, and I don't want to overreact here this time. And so holding your ground without losing things, thinking that things will pass, and things do pass. So the power, bala paramita, is about having this inner vigilance and strength, that things, difficult adversarial situations, don't tip off the balance. That actually makes you even stronger, no matter what you had to do, but you pulled through there and you didn't collapse. And that is what we call bala paramita. And the ninth paramita is the pranidhana paramita. Pranidhana means aspiration. Prayerful aspiration. Those things you do not succeed by practicing any of the six perfection or whatever, that you include them in prayers. Maybe I can't help this situation by doing this way right now, but I don't want to give up. I want to offer prayer that one day I will be able to make a difference. In the meantime, I need to keep investing the good aspiration, not react to it with enmity or anger, but think things will change. I have to keep praying. Bodhisattvas should not only practice all the above six, but also should resort in prayerful position. They should offer prayers, those they couldn't conquer today, that they didn't quite do well. They shouldn't give up on those, that may my offering this prayer, maybe raising these prayer flags, hanging them on the wall. This will take away some of the dense and heavy energy. Have faith in that and do that. That's called pranidhana paramita. That's why we offer prayers. We offer prayers because we're trying to find a path open before us that's otherwise closed right now. Everything seems like so dark. We don't know where to go to. But offer prayers and something will open. You wouldn't believe that there are some good things happening. There's all the good things happening now. Once upon a time was prayers we made. That's what they say, that there were prayers we made in the past, therefore things are now that's happening very well. Even bodhicitta is a prayer. It's a vow. May all living beings be free from suffering and cause suffering. Yeah, it's first you have to make a prayer. And then when you keep saying, when you keep praying, which is like a reminder for oneself. In Buddhism, we don't pray to God, but we pray to the Buddha to do ourselves, We don't pray to the Buddha asking him to do for us. That's bribing. That's cheating. You got to do it yourself. You create a mess of karma yourself, and then you want to clean other people to clean it. So therefore we should offer prayer that one day may I conquer my own ego and pride and fix them all. Please allow me to. And if we persuade to each other to do that, and things will change. Yeah, everything's going to change. Everything will change. And offer a prayer. Raise the prayer flags and do something. Send a card of good wishes. You believe that. You don't have to be Buddhist. So people are always sending card. Card a wish, yeah. Card a wish, that's what you're talking about. Card a wish, and that's a prayer. Because all the get well cards are really basically prayers, isn't it? People saying, oh, may you get well, or hope you get well. Well, all they did is just a cardboard and, like something like this. Just cardboard. This is something like this. Open. Oh, so nice. Or something. So wishes are like that. Just being able to have that implanting seed in the prayer and the virtues, wishes, the wishes. Wishes do come true, but it has to be wished. It has to be sincerely wished. Sincerely wished. If we don't, we are only doing what we wished. So we have to be selective to what we really want to wish, and not wish those things that are really not worthy of trying to do. I talk about making resolution, New Year resolution or whatever. Every morning we should rise up, say the bodhicitta prayers. Those are the most, it's engraving on the rocks. They'll definitely bless your soul and spirit and consciousness if you're going to be born again. One day, those prayers imprinted on your consciousness will come to fruition. So the Bodhisattva not only engages in these first 8 paramitas, but he also engages in the prayer paramita. He offers prayers, not only a religious practice, but actually wishes. May I be able to wish to forgive this person totally. I'm gonna offer my prayer that I will be able to do so. It's so horrible to be angry at each other, even a day, let alone weeks and months. This is terrible. This got to come and this got to stop. Please pray for me, they say. When it comes to others, they ask you to pray, But why don't they themselves do prayer? If they're asking somebody to pray, there must be something longing there. The longing is there, but they think somebody's prayer is more powerful than their own initiative. But we have to have initiative to ask other people to pray. It's good to say prayer for the deceased, prayer for the sick, and prayer for the rejected, and so forth. And then when we do practice, we don't do it as a chore. We don't do it just as something we do daily or weekly. We do it that there's a lot of people whose situation is so tense and stuck and not really shifting. And how can we pull the prayers? We can prayer pull everybody. Yeah, prayer pull everybody. That's what a good word, actually. Prayer pull everybody. And because we're doing prayer, we must as do for everybody. Just like, say, we are having really big difficulty, so there are millions of people like me in the whole world, and by doing this prayer, may we make a little difference to all who are in a similar situation. If you do that, it's much more expansive. It's a much more transcendental prayer. Pranidhana paramita is called. Otherwise praying so that may I be well, may I be this, may I be this. God, so miserable. Just asking for oneself. So that's why it should be may all sentient beings. My inner text don't say may I. It should be may all sentient beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all beings who are angry at each other, may that be short-lived. May they realize that's the cause of suffering. May they not brood it. May they know the origin of suffering is their brooding, the anger of it, rather than about whatever issue is. May they come to know that. May I be able to make them know this. I ask the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to send blessings to know them. So you basically become a nuisance to yourself, to persuade yourself to do, and to turn towards the right direction. So that the Parinidhana paramita, and the 10th paramita is the Jnana paramita. The Jnana paramita is a little bit different. It's primordial wisdom. Jnana means primordial wisdom. Primordial means that we actually endow this wisdom right from the beginning. We don't have to acquire it from somebody else. We just have to remove all the hindrances. That is, we have to unveil this. Just behind that curtain, the plaque is already there. You have to unveil the curtain, and then the plaque will show. So there's actually to practice selflessness and generosity and all that is actually deeply in our prayers, deeply in our wishes. We just have to unveil, which is the ignorance or miserliness or impatience or laziness, whatever. We just have to remove that, and then absence of that has to be diligence. Absence of that has to be concentration. So with this in mind, the Bodhisattva knows that we actually have primordial wisdom to know how beneficial it is to practice selflessness. We just have to remember that and keep doing that. Intellectually we know, but habitually we are now very unfamiliar. like doing things for people. People think it's a big thing, you know. They don't have the pleasure. They think they have done this many times. They basically been counting how many times they did this for each other, and now this is I get this back. Nothing. I didn't get anything from you. This is all what I've done all these years. Parents do that, and most people do that. They don't realize that that kind of miserable counting or giving is miserable, miserable. It is not perfection of generosity. So the generosity hasn't allayed the misery. Generosity is supposed to eliminate the poverty in the mind. The poverty is saying nobody loves me or I'm nobody, all that kind of attitude. It isn't just giving something to somebody who was hungry and then they are very happy. That's not generosity. That's just feeding the hungry. Real generosity, getting rid of our own poverty. Our own sense of poverty mentality. Poor me, I haven't got this mentality. Then you will realize first bhumi. Each of the six bhumis, each of the six perfections, 10 bhumis, you get 10 bhumis. It's actually the absence of non-existence of the antithesis of generosity is dana paramita. Non-existence of the opposite is the such and such paramita. So, this primordial wisdom, which is the 10th one, is this wisdom isn't something what you don't have. It's there always. It's always there. We just have to see. It's just like radio waves are there. Whether you tune in or not, which station. The radio is there always, constantly there. It's just question is whether reception is good enough in tuning that or not. We actually have the wavelength of Buddha enlightenment because we have Buddha nature. So that whether that Buddha nature is tuned in or not, if you're tuned in, you can then see it. You can. So therefore, the wisdom is primordial. We actually all are emptiness, not because we have to realize emptiness. We actually are emptiness, and most people think it's the most demeaning thing to say emptiness. We are actually emptiness. Our problems is emptiness, empty of inherent existence. You've got to think like that, and then oh really? Isn't it really? It wasn't my clinging. It wasn't my sort of my bias against me or these. It actually isn't there. I can't show my problems. I haven't got it here. You can't. You can't see anywhere there's a problem. You don't really see any problem that inherently exists, And so therefore you don't get intimidated by problem when you know the primordial wisdom is the jnana paramita, transcendental paramita of all that. In the end you realize you didn't have to attain Buddhahood. Buddhahood is not a thing. It's a state of mind. A state of mind you always have. So how far is it to go to the next door? How far is it when it is right inside you? How far you have to travel when it's right inside you? Primordial wisdom is realizing the emptiness of self. You don't have to practice selflessness of generosity. You have to realize the ego is emptiness of self. And when we realize that, then of course dana paramita, shila paramita, and all the 6 paramitas naturally comes. And this is why we started on the first night, the nature of the 6 paramita, and why there are 6, the order of the 6 paramita, why they're there, why they're dependent on each other, why they're gradual from the 1 to the 6. And how the sequence of the generosity followed by morality is, for instance, first is generosity much easier to do, course and grows. And morality is much harder to do for most people, so therefore it's second. And then why morality? After morality, there is diligence, because practicing morality requires lots of tolerance and diligence. And so from that, then it develops concentration and wisdom. So in this way we know the 6 paramita, and any 6 paramita, if done properly, becomes 1 times 6. So it's 36 paramitas. Because every single act, like listening to this teaching and me trying to say, these are all generosity. These are all generous of your time and so on. So there's generosity, basically, particularly generosity for the benevolent thing that's really good for us and our future and so on. So it's not just enjoyment for the evening we are listening. There's not much enjoyment here, I'm sorry. But you're doing it for the benevolent cause, that's going to really make us become awake and benefit, and so and so benevolent causes. And so we also try to stick in there. We try to observe what it requires to study and listen and contemplate the meaning of teachings. We don't straight away just take what you heard as the truth or fact. We just analyze, we just examine, we just check ourselves. So basically we are also being pretty thorough, meticulously disciplined to actually don't accept the Dharma just from the face value, but accept the Dharma not because who teaches it. Accept the Dharma because Buddha taught it. And therefore it has to be valid. But on the basis that we therefore respect. Therefore, we don't do that is harming, and so we observe some things that we know is harmful. Then we know that those things that are helpful, we try to adopt those, however difficult it is. So then your ability to like listening teachings, for instance, reasoning, those things, not accepting everything on the face value, but analyzing and checking. Itself is very good discipline. Discipline of benevolent discipline. Prohibitive discipline, encouragement discipline. And then we have what we call tolerance, Tolerance in sitting, coming, and listening. And it looks like we're going over it many times. Still, never mind, listening. It's good. I feel like I'm repeating many times. And I just I ran out of things to say, really. But we're so forgetful. It doesn't really matter if we're so repeating so many times. It's the more the merrier. So that kind of tolerance, we don't mind, It's so easy to put your feet up and put the heater on and you think you have a relaxing evening and you didn't do anything useful. But persuading oneself to come and do these things, it is already... Listening to Dharma is a practice of persuasion. One is persuading oneself. One is helping each other. We have people supporting, doing things. These are all persuasions. Everybody's doing indirectly a persuading job. Persuasion job, and then we are very diligent. When we get some kind of poignant point in the Dharma, it inspires us. We can really take that note and really, I need that to hear that. I need to employ that. You're always looking really, not just listening, teaching for the sake of the listening. You're actually always relating in my life's problem. I should have thought like this. I will think like this. I should do this. In the teaching, there's a lot of conversation happening what the teacher isn't saying. People already processing very quickly, because teaching means making them see, pointing them to, I got to think like that. I shouldn't be thinking like that about my boss or him or her. This is ridiculous. This is just childish. I should do the exact opposite. And you really resolve in the teachings. Some kind of clarification. And people get inspired. That's why they come to teaching again and again, because it is really helping them to see the way around much better and points the way that one should adopt, points the way that one should drop, points the way that one should train gradually, and because of that, people are diligent to listen, study, talk, teachings, read, and understand. So there is the diligence, and then focusing with attention. Attending, paying attention to the teachings wholeheartedly, rationally, logically, not just accept it for the face value, but using your reasoning mentality and calm and peaceful, concentrated mind to see the veracity, to see the coherentness of the points, and so on, not just accepting blindly, but using our intelligence. And seeing the teaching is not some ready-made thing from the Buddha, that we have to realize it ourselves. That's a realization Dharma is more important than the literal Dharma or scriptural Dharma. And we have to realize them in relation to, by putting our life as an example. And then how to see how that problems is softenable by bringing these teachings and ideas and perceptions. When you're able to see that, then you're meditating. Basically, you're meditating the relevance of the teaching. So that when you're listening to the teaching, it is a meditation. It is a Dhyana Paramita. It is a Vriya Paramita. It is Shanti Paramita. It is a Shila Paramita. It's definitely Dhyana Paramita. So with this in mind, and then the last one, what we call Prajna Paramita, is that this kind of wisdom that we have transcends the very knower, very person. The whole idea of self is all transcendable by these practices. And so in this way, not only listening to the teaching, but even after you listen to the teaching, that these teachings do not really inherently exist from self. It's all dependent origination from the Shakyamuni Buddha all the way to the last 1200 years of the Buddhism in Tibet, and then the recent 50 years or so in Australia. Oh wow, you're just awed by the complex history and personalities and people made it possible for Dharma to reach in our lap. Wow, you could see the dependent origination of the Dharma. Even the Dharma isn't the solidly one. It is just due to this history, due to the lineage, due to the great discipline, due to the great generosity of others, due to the great care and this dedication of others who practice this. Now we have got that. So you can see the dependent origination of the Dharma that we are studying or we are listening, and we are awed by that. So therefore, sixth perfection is not there you do things sequentially, one today, one another. Actually, if you combine it, all the six factors can be present in one. Of the six, the first five are called method, last six is called wisdom. And of course, Shantideva says that without the wisdom, all the method is a little bit sort of, not quite right, It's just like a person who's very, 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 very good built, very, very tall or fit looking or whatever, but he's blind. Then he couldn't really do many things because he's blind, So even if you do all the first five parameters, but if you don't have the sixth, it's like a blind person. If the person who has this eye, then his other skills and abilities of the body is a great bonus, isn't it? So therefore, wisdom is the one that makes all the things paramita. That no matter what you give, even you give like Anathapindika, who gave everything he had earned or saved, like thousands of ounces of gold to the Buddha or whatever for the sangha. No matter what he gave, it won't get anywhere beneficial. If it wasn't the paramita, transcendental wisdom, and that it is actually the one here to transcend the ego, who think he is the giver, or what he thinks he's given, or to whom that he has given, and therefore he needs to be acknowledged. That's kind of childish mentality is the highlighter of the important. Even actual paramita itself is not inherently existing. It is also do not exist independently. So Paramaparamita shouldn't be seen as something there by itself. It is also due to many causes and conditions, largely due to ignorance, and largely due to all the other 6 and 12 constituent of sense object and sense organ, and kind of that kind of theory. So then you therefore realize every time you do something, you meditate on the emptiness of it. Even you had a difficult exchange with somebody for a while, and they just sit there, you can see the emptiness of it. Because it's no longer happening. So that's the emptiness. You can't tell where it is. Maybe it didn't ever happen. Unless you're regurgitating and playing back, it didn't maybe happen, your mind is so stuck in keeping that alive. That's the problem, If there isn't the clinging and aversion, the mind, within the mind, you couldn't find anything there. So the memories, feelings, perception, we are hosting them, we're just giving them and we're just feeding them. That's the problem. And transcendental wisdom, Prajna Paramita, is meditating in emptiness. There's no I, no nose, no these, and then clap the hands. If you can't get it right after reading all the list of no's, just clap the hand 3 times and finish it off. Damn thing. So this is a Vajrayana method. Just clap the hands and imagine everything just completely pulverized and you can't see anything solid left. So meditating by the meditating on the meaning of emptiness, then when you do the clapping hands, and then it's not that you are forcibly removing something. You are clapping the hand as a symbol to end on, a symbol of ending. However things have begun, but it's good to have an end. Otherwise, Buddha would not have taught the truth of cessation. If there was not going to be end, why teach a difficult path? Not many people can take up. But those who did take up, maybe few who succeeded, but those who did, there's never too few. One is enough. One is enough. So we know how rare it is. Even one is enough, because it is possible to do. And therefore, we don't give up. We become enthused by the teachings of Paramita, because initially it's the motivation, altruism, then the application, then non-attachment of it. That's what Paramita is, non-attachment to the thing, the doing of it, to whom and with whom one does it, generosity, tolerance. One sees meditation and emptiness of those things, that these things do not actually inherently exist. These things exist on the basis of dependent origination. So we will conclude here the 10 paramitas. The last 4 we didn't get to do a lot on, and actually they are not that difficult. The first 6 paramita is so ripening and maturing oneself, and last 4 paramita is ripening other sentient beings. Ripening other sentient beings. Ripening means just making them grow and persuade. Those 4 persuasion are basically ripening practices. That you got to work on somebody, you got to do something for them and encourage them, speak nicely and not be negative and critical of them. When you do that, then they will transform very quickly. You wouldn't believe how quickly Dharma changes people. You never thought we're going to think like that. We're going to hold that wrong view all those years. We didn't have any intention to change it. But how quickly, as a result of little Dharma we know, it has made this spaciousness, clarity, and openness in your heart, and they no longer are not crowded in your mind. Your mind is finding space, new space, to accommodate all kinds of things. It's not taking up the space anymore, because you can empty them, because they lack of inherent existence. They are not there always, and they never will be in the future. So why we think they are there? And we just have to start believing that they are no longer truly existing, and clap the hands with the understanding. When they clap the hands, people wake up. That's the whole idea. You just wake up yourself. Clapping hands. If somebody's falling asleep, you clap hands, they go like this. And we are falling asleep all the time. to sadness, to despair, to hurt, to anger, and we are falling asleep all the time. And we need to clap and wake up. Come on, it's too long. We're losing your time there. And so, thank you for your coming and attendance. And we are going to conclude here the dedication of the merits. By the merit of this, may I attain the state of omniscience, and defeat evil enemies of defilements. May I liberate all sentient beings from the samsaric oceans, the turbulent waves of birth, all this sickness and death.
Deja Damja Renja Jendala Dage Zana Daye Gandaba Dene Induk Tijoy Tambeja Renja Jama Mebana George. By listening to the precious and precious mind and teaching, whatever boundless matter required, may all sentient beings become precious and as vessels to retain the excellent and precious mind and teaching. Janja Zamja Rinpoche Maje Bana Jeje Nyeba Nyamba Meba Gona Gonda Amba. May the supreme and precious bodhicitta take birth, we had not done so. Where it has been born, may it increase abundantly without degeneration.